Hi everyone, welcome to another ICP Educate workshop. Today we have Bob joining us, who is going to share his story on the ICP ecosystem. So I hope you're all as excited as I am. Please post all your questions in the chat or in the questions tab, whatever you prefer. I'm inviting Bob to the stage now, so hope you're joining me soon. I also want to say that you can still submit the weekly challenges, both week 1, week 2, and week 3. We will be releasing the week 4 challenge on Friday. And I can tell you guys, it's very, very good prices. So if you haven't already, I really suggest you should check them out. I will be posting them in the chat very soon. Hi, Bob. How are you?
Hey, doing well. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you very well. I like your hat.
Yeah, thank you. This is one of my all-time favorite hats.
Are you ready to get started with the session?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, go right ahead and enjoy, everyone.
I like to do more interactive presentations because just sitting there and listening to someone talk for 45 minutes can only be so entertaining. And so I like to get some, interactivity, some feedback from the audience. So I'll kind of, go along, talk through kind of my entrepreneurial journey kind of on ICP. But if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm happy to pause at any moment and take questions. I think if I kind of direct what I say based on audience feedback, I think it always turns out a little bit better. So I'll kind of walk you through kind of who we are at Toniq, what we're doing right now with Bioniq, and kind of our journey as a team building on ICP. So we started back in May of 2021. This was when mainnet launched for ICP, and we really wanted to build a game fully on chain. So assets on chain, music on chain, game logic on chain, everything front end on chain. We wanted it to be a fully decentralized game. That's actually a really hard thing to do right now. Partly hard because blockchains don't really support the speed and interactivity that games require. Also hard because where are you going to store your front end on the blockchain? Also hard because your storage, your assets, your music files, your game logic. And so after looking, ICP was really the only place we found where you could build a 100% on-chain game. So we started working on a game called Rise of the Magni. And if you're a ICP OG, you'll likely know Rise of the Magni. It was a turn-based tile game, pretty fun. It's not like a real-time run around in a metaverse kind of game because it's really hard to do something like that on chain. But we did do a turn-based tile game. Once we had the game, then we thought, well, it'd be really cool to add digital collectibles to the game. So we added in an NFT component to the game. And then we needed somewhere for users to store those NFTs. So we built a wallet called Stoic Wallet. And then we noticed that people really liked the NFT component. And so we launched an NFT collection called the Chronics. Chronics were the first NFT on the internet computer. And we noticed people really wanted to trade the Chronics. So we built a really simple marketplace for the NFTs. And we called that Entrepot. First, the marketplace was built into the wallet, but then we noticed there was more demand for other collections, so we spun it off into a separate marketplace. So now we had a wallet, we had a game, we had a marketplace. From there, we had tons of traction on the ICP NFT side. So we built a launchpad to let more people launch collections. And so up to this point, if you think about the kinds of things we were building, it was almost just purely based on user feedback. So we started off, building this interesting game, but as users like slowly just pulled out more products from us based on what users wanted and where the demand was. And I think that's generally how product market fit should feel as a business. You build a product and then there's enough demand that people essentially just kind of pull the product out of you, and you're forced to build other things to make your users happy. So that was our kind of initial foray into building things on the internet computer. We had an NFT standard, a wallet, a marketplace, a game. From there, we continued to build out. There was significantly less traction on the NFT side. Moving into early to mid 2022, that was kind of the bear market. And then that pretty much continued until, I don't know, you could argue maybe a couple months ago. But during that period, we were still trying to grow. We're a VC funded company. We did a raise in October of 2021. That was around when we officially incorporated the company. And then as a VC funded company, we had funds to build through the bear, but also we needed to focus on reliable and sustainable business models. And so thinking about the ICP ecosystem as a whole, we've never really seen a surge or a spike in price yet. And so because of that, we haven't had any of the kind of attention that you get as a chain. And so the ICP ecosystem isn't as big as perhaps other chains that have had those kinds of hyper speculation driven price movements. And so for us as a business, we're always looking for how we can leverage the tech that we've built to target a bigger audience. So the ICP ecosystem is a good size and it's growing, but it wasn't quite big enough for us in terms of like NFT marketplace volume in order to sustain us as a company. And so we needed to either kind of branch out into Web 2 users or branch out cross chain into other Web 3 users. And for us, it made sense to branch out into Web 3 and go cross chain. So if you're familiar with what ICP has been doing on the protocol side for Bitcoin, we have a Bitcoin Light node fully on chain. We have a threshold ECDSA protocol, which is just a way to sign Bitcoin transactions. And we have CKBTC, which is the wrapped version of Bitcoin on ICP. These protocol primitives are fantastic for ICP. It means you can do a whole variety of different kinds of applications on ICP because of these primitives. So we decided back in February of this year that we would start building Bioniq. Bioniq is our Bitcoin ordinals marketplace that is built on ICP. And we did this because ordinals, Bitcoin ordinals, these are NFTs on Bitcoin. They're kind of all the rage this year. In fact, I think it was it Cointelegraph that just named Casey Rodarmore the most influential person in blockchain this year. He's the creator of ordinals. So ordinals have done something crazy like 500 million USD in volume this year, a little bit more than that. So there's massive hype and speculation and just traction happening on the Bitcoin NFT side. So we decided that we would take advantage of the interesting protocol features on ICP and merge that with some of the excitement happening in the Bitcoin space, in the Bitcoin ordinal space, and put it all together into what is now Bioniq, which is the fastest and easiest to use ordinals marketplace. And we just launched that after a solid 10 months of building. We just launched that last week. So we're now 4 or 5 days post launch, and very, very excited to have finally released our Bitcoin ordinals marketplace. Bioniq is kind of the best of both worlds in that you have the immutability and decentralization of assets on Bitcoin, combined with the speed and the low fee environment of ICP. I always tell people it's like the peanut butter and jelly of blockchain, or whatever your favorite combo is there of foods. And so we've kind of progressed from initially building out a lot of the infrastructure on the ICP side to then getting quite a bit of success in launching 500 collections on ICP. Kind of building the ICP NFT ecosystem, and then in the last year or so, bread and cheese, yeah, exactly. In the last year or so, pivoting over to Bioniq, which is, it's almost like the culmination of everything that we've built. So Bioniq has a built-in wallet. It's basically like we just took Stoic wallet and threw it into Bioniq. We built a smart contract wallet called Volt that we also are using in Bioniq. We built a lot of really good marketplace tech and NFT tech on the ICP side that we're now leveraging in Bioniq as well. And so it's basically like the culmination of everything that we've done as a company is now, it now lives in Bioniq. Bioniq is our fastest, easiest to use marketplace ever. Entrepot was pretty good, but it was kind of behind on design. Toniq had an updated design, but unless you had a really beefy computer, it was running a little slow on a lot of browsers. But Bioniq is kind of the fastest, easiest to use marketplace we've ever built. So it's it's our best. It's the best version of ourselves as a company. Okay, any questions? On our story as a company, how we got together as a team, the kinds of things we're building, where we want to go with Bioniq. Questions on Bioniq? Everyone should log in. You should all log into Bioniq right now. You just go to the link. You can log in with Google. It should be really, really easy. We're planning a new airdrop to some of our new users. So if you sign in, I don't know what our count is exactly. We're probably up to like 16K users or something like that, 17K. But yeah, if you sign in now, then you have a good chance of getting our round 2 airdrop. So everyone here getting a little alpha, you should sign in to Bioniq with your Google account. It should be pretty easy. But yeah, you can also explore it and see, kind of the things that we're doing here. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if you go to the questions tab, can you see the questions tab? There's 2 questions that have come in. If you can't find it, then I can also just read them out loud, but it might be easier for you to kind of see them there.
Yeah, I got it. Rise of the Magni isn't live anymore. That's actually a good question. Rise of the Magni might still be live. Let me see. Oh, this site can't be reached. Okay. I think it's still deployed, but it's probably not on. So yeah, apparently Rise of the Magni is not live anymore. I'll have to go check on that. How long have you been working on ICP? Been working on ICP since May 2021, a little bit before. So pushing 2.5 years, coming up on 3 years next year. Why only supporting Google login at the moment? Yeah, so that's a really good question. So our goal here is to have the easiest to use Bitcoin Ordinals marketplace. And so we're using Web3 Auth to do non-custodial key management. And so currently we only support logging in with Google. There are lots of different authentication options we might continue with. For example, external Bitcoin wallets, Xverse, Unisat, Leather are some of the top Bitcoin Ordinals wallets. And I think it would make a lot of sense to add internet identity. I see when internet identity will be available for login. So I think that there's probably a path where we do integrate internet identity and probably some external Bitcoin wallets. But initially we wanted to start with logging in with Google because it's just so ubiquitous and so easy for users. So yeah, that's our Bioniq link to explore. I think people are dropping it in the chat. It's just bioniq.io. That's Bioniq with a Q at the end. CKETH similar to CKBTC. Yes. CKBTC is, leverages the Bitcoin integration. The Ethereum integration is a little bit different than the Bitcoin integration, but yes, CKETH is essentially wrapped Ethereum, much like CKBTC is wrapped Bitcoin. Ethereum is an account-based model, so it's a little bit easier to handle Ethereum than it is to handle Bitcoin. Bitcoin, you have to handle UTXOs, unspent transaction outputs. But yeah, I think CKETH just barely went live, so it's ready to go. So I'm hoping we see some interesting applications built for the Ethereum community using CKETH. In terms of entrepreneurs interested in diving in the ICP ecosystem, what current problems do you think could be use cases where implementing a Dapp in ICP is more beneficial than as a typical web app? Yeah, I think that's a great question. To answer that one, from my perspective, when I started building on ICP, I thought maybe ICP would have its Solana moment. Solana moment meaning, if you go back to if you go back in time to the NFT summer of 2021, you had people massively pumping Solana. They got a lot of infrastructure built. They got a lot of hype. And so because of all of that, Solana really took off as an ecosystem. And my initial thesis on ICP was that we would see something similar to that. We have not seen that yet. And so, we can either sit around and wait for that, or we can test a new hypothesis. My new hypothesis is a cross-chain thesis for ICP. Cross-chain thesis meaning ICP as an L1 is really fantastic with having interoperability with other chains. CKBTC, CKE, the Bitcoin and Ethereum integrations. Beyond those, we have TECDSA, which means theoretically you could integrate any ECDSA chain into ICP. That includes things like XRP or Litecoin or any other Bitcoin fork or any other Ethereum fork, or other chains as well, Avalanche or others. And so ICP feels like maybe it fits better in this cross-chain, cross-chain thesis than it does as kind of like a solo layer one. And I think that's one of the reasons why DFINITY has been pushing on the Bitcoin and Ethereum integrations. And so in terms of people interested in diving in, current problems, I think that what we've done with Bioniq is a really good example of, we're building a product on ICP, leveraging the unique affordances of the ICP protocol, of the Internet Computer Protocol, and we're kind of bringing the best of ICP and the best of Bitcoin together. And so that's what I'm really looking for in the ICP ecosystem right now, is people who will target users outside of the ecosystem. I think for businesses to really thrive and develop, you need to target big target audiences. And so yeah, that's kind of my thesis on ICP right now. And I would love to see more cross-chain dApps built on ICP, leveraging these leveraging these interesting protocol primitives. Okay, next question. How complicated is it for Stoic to use internet identity? Seems like most other wallets prefer not to. Internet identity is fairly simple to integrate, I believe, so it's not crazy. So anyone could implement internet identity. There are some potential downsides. At least initially, there were a lot of user experience issues with using internet identity in terms of how you set it up, what devices were supported. I know that's getting a lot better now. And I know there is some work going on from the DFINITY side on internet identity. I think NFID is also a really fantastic option, where they essentially took the internet identity base and then added a whole bunch of really nice user experience elements around it. And so I think, for us building Bioniq, we've had experience with Web3 Auth previously building, so it was just really easy for us to integrate. We couldn't use something like internet identity right off the bat because of the way that authorizations worked and the way that private keys worked. There were just some limitations there, but I think with the improvements, it wouldn't be too crazy for us to add NFID or even internet identity. So that's definitely on the roadmap for the future. Okay, next question. These are all great questions, by the way. Keep them coming. Okay, the wallet on Bioniq, is it a built-in wallet? Would you advise me to use available wallets or build mine more like a built-in wallet? I think that's a great question. For us, because Bioniq is built for Bitcoiners, you need to be able to hold, receive, and send Bitcoin. You also need to be able to convert Bitcoin and convert ordinals over to the ICP side, essentially wrapping them. And you needed to be able to unwrap and go back the other direction. And so we really needed a wallet solution that supported Bitcoin and ICP. And there isn't a wallet that supports that right now. Bioniq is the first wallet where you can receive Bitcoin, hold Bitcoin, send Bitcoin, receive ordinals, hold ordinals, send ordinals, and wrap Bitcoin and ordinals over directly to CKBTC and wrapped ordinals in the wallet. So due to our unique circumstances, we had to build our own wallet. Normally, you don't really want to have a built-in wallet, meaning you don't want to have the burden of building your own wallet. In our case, it actually helps with usability because now you don't need an external wallet. You can just log in right there. You have the wallet, it's built in, it's kind of all in one. So there are some nice kind of usability benefits here. If you look at like FriendTech as well, that's how FriendTech was built. They have a built-in wallet, so you don't have to go anywhere else. So there are some benefits to a built-in wallet, but the downside is you lose interoperability. If you notice, FriendTech doesn't really have any way to be interoperable in the greater Ethereum ecosystem. In fact, you have to wrap everything if you want to then go and do things on Ethereum with your FriendTech keys, for example. Similarly with Bioniq, you do lose some interoperability by having a built-in wallet. And so to go back to kind of the ICP side, you would then have to wrap things over or come up with some other creative interoperability solution. Okay, another one. Did Bioniq create Ordinals Marketplace or Indexer as well? So we built the Ordinals Marketplace, but also in order to run the Ordinals Marketplace, we need an Ordinals Indexer. So we have a full Bitcoin node running. And on top of that, we have an Ordinals Indexer running. We just have a server running that handles all of this. Currently, this is a centralized server running our Bitcoin node and our Ordinals Indexer. And then we sync that over across to Bioniq to then power the Ordinals Marketplace. Ideally, like if I had unlimited resources and could build whatever I want with the snap of my fingers, then we would have a full Bitcoin node on ICP, and then we would have an Ordinals Indexer running on top in a canister, and then we would just have an Ordinals API essentially built in fully on chain on ICP. That's a very, very big task. And so we went with the simple route for now. And as we progress, if we need to, upgrade our infrastructure, then we can move over to kind of a fully on-chain version of Ordinals. But that is a very hard thing to do right now, is to decentralize that. Is one BTC equal to one CKBTC? Yes, that is correct. You can always wrap from Bitcoin to CKBTC, and you can always unwrap one-to-one. It just stores your Bitcoin in a canister. It's managed by the TECDSA subnet, and you can always go back and forth. There's no waiting. Well, there is a little bit of waiting to wrap. It takes about 13 confirmations, which is about 2 hours. To unwrap, it takes about 10 minutes, just because the CKBTC canister has to manage the UTXOs, so they batch the unwrapped transactions. But yeah, one BTC is always equal to one CKBTC. As a follow-up, how to handle the stigma that some people might have with blockchain due to some recent events, like what happened with Coinbase. I was really confused about that question because I was like, what happened with Coinbase? Correction, FTX. Yes, thank you for the correction. How to handle the stigma some people might have with blockchain. That's a good question. So the actual answer is that FTX proves we need blockchain. It doesn't prove that we don't need blockchain. The reason is, if you look at the way FTX worked, we didn't have proof of funds, like proof of reserves. We didn't have open, decentralized exchanges. This was very much a centralized exchange doing things in a centralized way with essentially none of the visibility into the public processes that you get on like Bitcoin or Ethereum. So honestly, the FTX debacle proves that we need blockchain more than anything. That's kind of how I answer it. And honestly, the people that look at something like that, they probably aren't our target users anyway, because if you know anything in the crypto space, you know that FTX was, a huge failing of FTX and of these centralized exchanges. So I think it's probably a point in the Go blockchains column. Okay, any reason to use Web3 auth, Web2 login, Bioniq? Why not plug in Bitfinity? They also support ICRC1 and CKBTC. Indeed, they do, but they don't support Bitcoin, meaning you cannot hold layer 1 Bitcoin in any of those wallets. I know with Plug, you can go from Bitcoin address somewhere else, and you can go directly to CKBTC in plug, but you can't actually hold Bitcoin in plug. In addition to that, because we are supporting ordinals, we needed ordinal support in addition to Bitcoin support. So not only did we need a wallet to hold and receive Bitcoin, but we needed a wallet to hold and receive ordinals on the Bitcoin blockchain. And then we needed a way to wrap those over to the ICP side. So it just wasn't possible. None of the wallets supported what we needed to do. Stoic, Plug, DFINITY, anything else. The wallets don't support holding Bitcoin. They don't support holding ordinals. And then they don't natively support wrapping ordinals. Some may support wrapping Bitcoin from an external address, but we just had to build our own because it didn't exist. What happens to CKBTC if Bioniq suddenly happens to be like Rise of the Magni? How can users recover or transfer that? I believe that's why MetaMask using one address makes it easier to know you can own and transfer it to any Dapp is missing. Yeah, so in the event that Bioniq were to go down, you can still recover your private key using Web3 Auth. You can log into Web3 Auth online. There's an open login place where you can log in. You can still get access to your private key. From your private key, you can then interact directly with any of your canisters or any of your, like the CKBTC canister, and there's still a way to get your CKBTC out or get your Bitcoin out or get your ordinals out. Even if Bioniq were to completely go away, you would still be able to go directly to the canister and make that happen. It would be hard technically, but it wouldn't be that hard. Like there are plenty of capable ICP devs that could pull it off. So that's what happens in the event that Bioniq were to go offline. Okay, next question. Explain the possibilities of building an edtech platform on ICP. Okay, this is a particularly interesting question because I actually got my PhD in educational technology. So for those of you that didn't know, I did PhD in edtech. I focused on learning analytics. Learning analytics meaning basically data science plus edtech smashed together. So how can we collect data from a learning experience and use that data to improve the teaching and learning process? So in terms of building an edtech platform on ICP, I think there are a couple of interesting kind of synergies here. One is the assessment space is severely fragmented in higher ed. If you look at all of the practice question resources like Quizlet or like Course Hero or like Chegg or other platforms, and then you look at the summative assessment platforms and you look at the courseware platforms, it's just like a mess of assessment. It's very, very fragmented. So I think an open assessment platform built on ICP could be extremely fascinating. In fact, hold on, let me find this. I wrote an article. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. I wrote an article 5 years ago about the need for an open assessment platform in higher ed. Let me just drop this in the chat so you can go and read. Essentially, the assessment space is extremely fragmented, and we need some kind of decentralized, moderated, crowdsourced open assessment platform. I think building something like that on ICP could be fantastic. In addition to having, transparency and openness and immutability by building on ICP, I think on the credential side and the reputation side, there's a lot of opportunity here where you could, as people interact on the platform, you can give them badges. It's essentially like non-transferable NFTs or, soulbound tokens. And from there, you can give permissions in the platform, whether it's like a moderator or a moderator of the moderator. And with these layers of moderation, this is kind of like what Mod Club is doing on ICP. But take those layers of moderation to ensure that you have accurate assessment questions, you have accurate answers, you have accurate feedback. I think another kind of wrinkle you could throw in here is AI. With generative AI, I think that's making a big change in education where now you have almost 24/7 access to an expert. Expert that's right 95% of the time with 5% asterisk hallucinations. But I think that leveraging AI in this open assessment system could also be killer. Whether it's generating content or moderating content or giving people ideas or giving people a place to start from. And so I think, in the future, if no one else builds it, this might be something I build in a decade or something, this AI / crowdsourced, awesome open assessment platform on ICP. So that's a fantastic question. I won't go too deep there. I mean, I could talk for hours on, ed tech, crypto, AI, synergies. Okay, what's the main reason ICP is able to put so much on chain? Is it chain key crypto? Can you give a simple analogy or example to understand? Yeah, so the magic essentially for these cross-chain integrations is chain key cryptography, which enables you to do things like threshold ECDSA. So if you don't know what threshold ECDSA is, imagine we have this private key and we chop it up into pieces, and we the TCDSA subnet has 29 nodes. So we chop up the private key and we send out the private key shares to 29 different nodes. And then you need a threshold signature. So that means not everyone has to sign, only like 2/3, or I actually don't know how many need to sign, but you need at least 2/3 to be honest, 2/3 plus one. So of the 29, what is 2/3 times 29? 19 plus one, so 20. So you probably need 20 of the nodes to act honestly and sign. And that's essentially how you hold Bitcoin assets or Ethereum assets on ICP, is you use a TCDSA Bitcoin address or a TCDSA generated Ethereum address. So when you're holding assets on ICP, cross-chain assets on ICP, that's essentially who you're trusting with your key, is this TCDSA subnet. The good thing about this is it's all managed at the protocol level. So, with chain key plus some like key rotation within the subnet plus the NNS kind of governing the subnet, you essentially have what I would call like the world's greatest multi-sig. Essentially, it's basically a multi-sig because you have 29 nodes in the subnet, all doing a threshold signature when you want to move your on-chain assets. So that's essentially the key enabler for ICP, is these threshold signature protocols. A lot of people are arguing for like threshold ED-DSA. If you look at like Solana is not an EC-DSA chain, they're an ED-DSA chain. So you need threshold ED-DSA in order to enable Solana integration. Or some people are wanting Schnorr signatures as well, threshold Schnorr, which would enable you to do more things on the Bitcoin blockchain. Feel free to ask more questions or tell me to stop getting so technical if you're not enjoying the technical deep dives. But you are asking good questions. Okay, next one. For a Dapp where there would be several transactions in ICP and maybe these new tokens and holding of certain assets, what wallet or platform would you recommend to integrate within the Dapp? New tokens, holding of certain assets. Yeah, so it totally depends on what chain you're trying to target. In our case, we wanted to target Bitcoin, so we needed to support full Bitcoin wallet, full ICP wallet. If you're also trying to target Bitcoin, then you're either going to need to build your own wallet or get an existing wallet like Bitfinity, Plug, or Stoic to integrate some Bitcoin functionality in order to support it. It depends on if you want to target Ethereum. If you want to target Ethereum, then it also depends on what kind of interactivity you want within your app. If you want to support both sides of the chain, the ICP side as well as some other chain, then you might need to build it yourself. Or if you're okay just supporting, like if you look at what Plug does, Plug lets you just generate a wrap address that will then come to your Plug as a wrapped asset. So Plug doesn't support Bitcoin native assets, but they do allow you to directly wrap from an external wallet directly into Plug. So you could take that route as well, which is interesting. I know that also NFID is a great option here because it lets you generate Bitcoin addresses as well as Ethereum addresses. And so technically you could hold Bitcoin assets and Ethereum assets in addition to ICP assets in the event that you're building some kind of cross-chain app. So NFID is really interesting in this regard. For Bioniq, NFID still wouldn't quite work because Oh, it might at this point. And NFID has made some interesting improvements that I think make it okay for us to leverage. But we just haven't done it yet. What are the requirements to be eligible for the second round airdrop? In Bioniq, our goal is to just reward users that help Bioniq succeed. So in the future, we'll probably do some additional bot protection measures. For now, it's basically you sign up and you'll probably get the airdrop. I'm not making any promises here, like criteria could change, but we did an airdrop of a couple collections to our first 10,000 users. And it's likely that we'll do another airdrop for the next, I don't know, 5,000 to 10,000 users as well. So pretty easy airdrop requirements currently on Bioniq. Let's see, did I miss any questions? I think I hit all the questions. Hey, we got someone that got their first Nakamoto's on Bioniq. Everyone give them a clap. Okay, we powered through those questions. Okay, follow up. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think there was a follow-up question that just came through. That was all I was going to say.
All right, follow up. How ICP is also having Dapp with front end fully on chain. How's ICP doing that? ICP like a combination of layer 1 plus file storage that's also run with chain key cryptography? Yeah, so that's a great question. Most blockchains struggle with on-chain storage because of the way that the blockchain is built. So if you look at Ethereum, there are thousands of nodes. That means if you store anything on Ethereum, it's replicated 1,000 times and stored on all these nodes, meaning it's expensive. Same with Bitcoin. If you want to store something on Bitcoin, like Bitcoin ordinals are all stored fully on chain on Bitcoin. If you want to do that, you're going to have to pay $1 per kilobyte, which is kind of expensive. And so you're paying to essentially store on all of those nodes. On ICP is a sharded blockchain. Sharded blockchain means it's broken up into subnets. So you have 13 nodes in a subnet generally, except for like the TEC-DSA subnet, like we talked about earlier, which has 29 nodes for more security. Most subnets have 13 nodes. And so when you want to store something, you only store it in those 13 nodes. So that means you only have 13-fold data replication, which is honestly really great compared to like 1,000-fold replication on Bitcoin or Ethereum. So this is how ICP can enable cheaper storage. In terms of like hosting front ends fully on chain, the way that it works is ICP has a default domain. The domain used to be ic0.app, but it has since changed to icp0.io. And the way that it works is there are a set of boundary nodes. Boundary nodes are kind of like edge nodes where they essentially provide like traffic direction. They redirect traffic to where it needs to go. So you have some kind of canister ID, and the canister ID will be essentially the root of that URL. So you have canister ID .raw.icp0.io essentially. And when you navigate to that, then the boundary node gets that request and knows what your canister ID is, and then appropriately routes that traffic to your canister. And the beautiful thing about ICP smart contracts is by default, they have an HTTP protocol, essentially. And so you can define what you want your canister to return when it gets hit with native HTTP endpoints. So that means you can have an API fully on chain. It means you can, like an HTTP API fully on chain, you can host your front end on chain, etc. Because traffic can be redirected from out anywhere, essentially, through these boundary nodes directly to your canister, which has then been configured to support HTTP. So that's essentially how ICP enables you to host a front end fully on chain. The beautiful thing about that is you can do a full stack DAO. Full stack DAO meaning everything is on chain, decentralized, controlled via, you can do canister based control. So you could set up like a smart contract that's sole purpose is to control another canister, and you can make people vote and determine how upgrades get pushed to that other canister. So you can do front end, you can do assets, you can do business logic, you can do back end, you can even do DAO controlled HTTP APIs, and canisters directly can hold assets. They can hold ICP, they can hold Bitcoin, they can hold Ethereum. That means you can do decentralized treasuries and other things. So ICP is really the best place right now in crypto for full stack DAOs. All right, good question from Daniel. Follow up to my question on CKBTC recovery. Is there an easier way to recover those tokens as a normal user and not a dev? I'm guessing many hesitate to be an ICP user as it seems kind of scary if not technical. Let's see. What would likely happen, like let's say something happens and Bioniq just completely disappears. I don't know what would cause that to happen. But let's just say it does. Let's say Bioniq is now gone. The way that open login works, private key, you would have to recreate your private key on the open login side using other factors other than your email address. That's fine. From there, anyone could build an app, essentially. That would be a front end where you could then interact with that app in order to get your tokens, get your funds out. So that's probably what would need to happen is someone would need to build a nice user-friendly way to recover assets. I don't think it's crazy, but someone would have to build something that's kind of a user-friendly front-end interface that would then let you view and transfer assets out. So that's probably the best path forward. You guys have had some really fantastic questions. Can someone create a fake Bioniq site and steal our assets? Someone could create a fake Bioniq site. You wouldn't be able to log in. Even if you logged in with Google to the fake Bioniq site, they couldn't steal your assets. There's this interesting kind of handshake that would have to happen because you're going to have to log in with your open login private key, and no other site has access to that open login private key. So even if a million other sites spun up right now, no one would be able to steal your assets unless they had access to your open login private key, which is currently like a multi-factor authentication between you and the Google Auth and the open login and the recovery factor that they send you. So in order for this like front end to work, this other front end that I was talking about, there's probably some kind of private key reveal that would have to happen. I mean, maybe you would want to run the front end yourself. I'm not exactly sure how asset recovery works. But no one's going to be able to steal your assets. It doesn't matter what you click or what you do right now, because it's just not possible without you as a user essentially revealing your private key in some fashion. So assets should be very safe. But I do need to look into how that private key recovery works in the event that you don't have Bioniq, meaning you don't have the Bioniq Web3 auth private key. Essentially, this is like a Web3 auth private key for Bioniq specifically. In the event that that goes away, I believe key recovery can still happen, but unsure how that private key then gets effectively used in a nice front end without having to reveal your private key. So I'll have to do some digging on that one.
There's been so many great questions. I kind of haven't really had a chance. I have a question
Perfect.
that might be really useful for everyone kind of listening. So we're running an ICP hackathon next year, so very soon. And this Educate series has been like a really good introduction for beginners, but also people who have maybe some experience. And I was wondering, if you were to participate in a hackathon now on the ICP ecosystem, what are some cool projects you think could be built? And like what areas do you think are really interesting right now? And what are some good resources for people to get inspiration on cool things to do?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. In terms of like good, interesting hackathon projects, I mean, I'm going to have a biased opinion because I'm building Bioniq, which is a cross-chain app on ICP. Obviously, I'm building that because I think that we're going to have a greater chance at success as a business building cross-chain apps on ICP. But that's essentially my advice to other people is I think you should find a customer segment that is bigger than just the ICP community. I want you to target Bitcoiners, or I want you to target Ethereum people, or I want you to target Web2 creators, or I want you to target um, artists, or I want your target market to be broader than just people that know about ICP, because I think there's greater chance for success targeting a bigger customer segment, and then leverage all of the amazing cross-chain protocols that ICP has, whether it's on the Ethereum side or the Bitcoin side, or whether you want to spin up something crazy like I know people are doing Doginals. Doginals is ordinals on Dogecoin. So Dogecoin is an ECDSA based chain, and there's nothing stopping you from bridging Dogecoin over to Bitcoin or to ICP. So you could have wrapped Dogecoin on ICP, you could have wrapped Doginals on ICP, and you could go crazy. Like some people really, really love Doge. So take that and you could build an interesting application specifically targeting the meme ability of Dogecoin. That's one crazy example, but there are like hundreds of these kinds of things. Find demand in the market, see what people are interested in. Maybe, there's been a lot of hype lately about Ethereum L2s, whether it's Blast or Base or Arbitrum or Optimism or ZK Sync or other L2s. Take an L2 and you leverage it's kind of like the Ethereum integration, but it's kind of like a sister Ethereum integration where now you're integrating with an L2 on Ethereum, which is likely EVM based, at least in some cases. That could then you could just port those assets directly into ICP. So there's some interesting things where you could do cross-chain apps. Are there resources for these stunts with bridges? Extra hard. Hard meaning you're going to have to know ICP really well, and you're going to have to know the other chains really well, but theoretically possible, just hard. But because it's hard, maybe there's an opportunity there to do something really nice and user-friendly and fantastic. But yeah, that's one example. Another way is you could do a more conservative thing where you just leverage the existing Bitcoin integration and you leverage maybe Bioniq's ordinals integration, and you do something cool with ordinals and Bitcoin. Maybe you want to do a lending platform, or maybe you want to do a portfolio page where you can actually like prove ownership of your ordinals and then arrange them in some kind of 3D environment room where you're throwing paintings on the wall, for example. Like I think cross-chain apps on ICP, that's currently my thesis for how ICP wins, is by enabling really incredible interoperable cross-chain applications. And so that's my spiel. That's my advice to founders, is go broader than just ICP, whether it's Web3, cross-chain, or even whether it's Web2. And if you're going to go Web2, you're going to go Web3, focus on creating like a 100x UX application, meaning target the user, and they don't really need to know it's built on ICP. They don't need to know the tech stack. They just need to easily log in, easily get started, and then you need to solve some kind of pain point for them. And so that's basically my advice for aspiring hackers and devs.
Thank you. That's great advice. Yeah, I thought you were going to start talking about ed tech. So that's
ed tech as well. If anyone's going to build anything ed tech, definitely reach out to me, because I have a soft spot in my heart for all ed tech applications.
Yeah. Cool. No, that's really good advice. I think there's some more questions that have popped in as well.
I'm assuming you can call Ethereum smart contract from ICP, since I can have my Dapp on chain in ICP. Let's see. You can sign Bitcoin transactions. That means you can also sign Ethereum transactions. I think leveraging HTTP out calls, you should be able to call smart contracts directly. What does it even take to call? I believe you can call Ethereum smart contracts from ICP. I don't have the exact kind of model in my head right now, but it makes sense that you would be able to do that. One other question. staking assets, a transfer from, allows third party to initiate transfer to the users. This might lead to trust issues. These will be an ICP. Yeah, so ICRC1 or the augmented ICRC2 does have the transfer from, the approved transfer from functionality. I don't really love that model, approved transfer from, so we're not using that model in Bioniq. Instead, we have a smart contract wallet called Volt, and you can use Volt authorizations on your assets. So very granular types of authorizations. We have soft authorization for offers, and we have hard authorizations for bids on auctions. The crypto never has to leave your wallet, and those authorizations are then created and placed on certain certain amounts of crypto in your wallet. So I prefer this kind of more flexible authorization model rather than the approved transfer from. But you could definitely use, CKBTC and CKETH will both be ICRC2 assets. So they will have approved transfer from functionality in the event that you want to use that. One other question, we want users to temporarily store their ICP or any other token and then get it back after certain conditions, more or less like locking an asset. Yeah, so that's definitely possible. I mean, that's like what we're doing with Volt authorizations. The easier way to do something like that is to just send it to the canister. So you can have a unique address generated for every user. This could be a cross-chain address. You could hold Bitcoin, you could hold Ethereum, you could hold CKBTC or CKETH or ICP. You send it to the canister. The canister has certain conditions upon which it will release those funds to the user. So using that canister as like an escrow canister is probably the best, easiest path forward, where the canister can escrow and then only release to users if certain criteria that are known to the canister are met. That's probably the easiest way. If you're going to use off-chain criteria, it gets harder because you're going to have to build an oracle now where you have some kind of ICP canister that's actually making HTTP calls to external APIs that then does some kind of consensus model to give you truth. And then your canister would then have to interact with that canister to verify the off-chain condition was met in order to then release the funds. So it can get fairly complicated depending on what the conditions or criteria are for the release of those funds. I think we tackled all the questions. I think we maybe have a minute or two left for any final.
Yep. If you guys have any final questions, please post them now, or just final comments, or if you just want to say thank you, that's also very welcome. I'm just gonna wait. Let's see. It seems like that might be all the questions. Someone wishes they could have even more conversation with you.
Yeah, let me give you some contact info. So there's bioniq.io. Twitter handle is @bioniqmarket, and then my Twitter is @Bodily. I'm @Bodily on Telegram and Discord as well, but I'm probably most responsive on Twitter. So if you have other questions, especially if there are like synergies with what I'm building, if you want to build something on ICP and Bitcoin, definitely reach out because we have a lot of tooling in Bioniq right now that we're going to make available for developers. There are even like opportunities. We're playing around with the idea of enabling apps within the marketplace. You could imagine like a trading bot or like a lending service or something where you could leverage our existing smart contract wallet authorizations and our existing APIs to build like a nice contained application within Bioniq. We're still a ways off from that, but it's definitely interesting. So definitely reach out if you're going to do something with Bitcoin and ICP or anything edtech related. Definitely have a soft spot there for edtech plus crypto plus AI. So yeah, happy to help. Thanks for all the questions. I hope the question and answer section was interesting and helpful. I feel like that's better than just me blabbing on about what I think you want to hear. So hopefully it was helpful.
No, I think everyone really, really enjoyed it. Based on just the amount of questions you received as well, I think people we're very intrigued to hear what you had to say and learned a lot. So thank you so much for joining. Hopefully you enjoyed as well, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Let me take the final 30 seconds. There's one final question. Where can I
Go for
create
it.
inscriptions? Currently, Bioniq uses something called reserved ordinals. Reserved ordinals are off Bitcoin, but on chain on ICP tokens that represent your ability to inscribe to Bitcoin. So if you buy, like I saw someone bought a Nakamoto on Bioniq. If you have a Nakamoto, you can click on the action arrow and there will be an inscribe option. Inscribing, it essentially takes the image and associated metadata, creates a Bitcoin transaction and inscribes it to Bitcoin, and then wraps it back to ICP so you can trade it. So you can still trade it on Bioniq. So that's one way to create inscriptions. But there are also just publicly available, like what is it? Ordinals bot. Ordinals bot is a really good automated way to also create inscriptions. This is off. This is not a Bioniq service. This is an external service. Probably one of the best. They just raised around, probably one of the best in terms of creating inscriptions. We'll have something like this eventually in Bioniq, where you'll be able to inscribe directly to your profile, whether it's inscribing onto Bitcoin or whether it's creating these reserved ordinals. It's kind of expensive to inscribe, like I said, like $1 per kilobyte, and it depends on current fees on Bitcoin. So our solution with reserved ordinals will be a lot nicer because it'll essentially be free to create reserved ordinals. You'll be able to upload your artwork, and it'll be a token on ICP that can then be inscribed to Bitcoin at a later date. So yeah, that's a bit on inscribing ordinals.
Cool. Okay. That seems like it is everything then. And yeah, guys, if you have any final questions, then Bob shared all of his contact details. So that's great. Please make sure to join the final session of the series on Thursday. It will be kind of different ICP grantee showcases. So quite similar to this session, a bit more kind of interactive. You can ask questions. You can hear more about what it's like to be kind of a successful project on the ICP ecosystem. And I'll also go through kind of some important bits in regards to the homework or the challenges and how you can be in the running for some really, really cool prizes. So same time as today, but on Thursday. Thank you everyone for joining, for interacting and engaging. And finally, thank you again, Bob, for answering all the questions. It was lovely to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Have a good rest of the day. I don't know, evening, morning.
Yeah,
I'm not very good with the different time zones. So thank you, and see you soon. Bye, everyone.